Okay, well, this is a case study of a small business that I worked with a couple of years ago. I've changed the name just to protect the innocent, so to speak, but essentially they're a small coffee shop local to me here that has two owners, a husband and wife couple, and they were looking for a little bit of planning and advice. And I sat down with them, went through some scenarios, and came up with a plan to move forward for them. So, as I said, they were a privately owned coffee shop, bakery, catering company. Husband and wife owner operator. James at the time was 50, Jennifer was 48, and they had a full-time staff of five, and they also had some part-timers coming and going as needed. They had recently, when they came to me, recently lost their baker, who was kind of a key employee, key to their success, due to a long-term illness, and were worried about costs if it happened to one of them. So James is diabetic and had been declined for life insurance from the bank before. So that was a concern. And their main goal was to provide employee benefits, some key person insurance, and a business succession plan, as they figured they only had about another 15 years or so to run this business. So we took a look at their current situation. Their revenue for the preceding year was about $500,000, $500,000, which worked out to around $42,000 a month, give or take. Their annual expenses, excluding payroll, was around $275,000, and that was everything from rent to utilities to supplies and all the rest of that. And that was coming in at about $23,000 a month. Their annual payroll was about $150,000 or $12,500 a month, which left them a profit of around $75,000 a year, or $6,200 or so dollars a month. And this was basically what they were living off of, give or take. They did kind of give themselves a small salary just to make sure that they at least had a floor to work with, but then and then the profit on top of it. They figured at the time that they could afford to allocate around $3,000 per month through expenses to some long-term planning to the business. So back to the goals. Goal number one was employee benefits, and that kind of came out of the discussion around that employee that they had lost due to the illness. They wanted to kind of make sure that they were protecting their employees as best they could from day-to-day expenses due to health and illness. So we took a look at a couple of things. Group health and disability insurance for all full-time employees was the goal. Now, the average cost of a benefits plan for a company like this is usually between 3 and 6% of overall payroll on a monthly basis. Now, another way to look at that is to say it's around $100 per month per person covered. And when we say per person, that would be, if there was a couple or a family of three, that would be $300 for the three of them. Even if it was only one person who was employed, we could cover the family. So in this case, we covered the owners and their family. We covered three individual employees, just as a single individual, and two more families, for a total cost of about $900 per month. Now, that cost was shared 50-50 with employees and fully tax deductible to the employer. By way of comparison or contrast, if the employer had decided simply to give everybody a commensurate raise of, say, 3 to 6%, that would have increased employee income tax by about 15% and been kind of a complete wash in terms of expenses for the employer, for the bouncing bean. But the end result, of course, is a much better deal for the employees to get the employee benefits package rather than a raise of 3 to 5%. And that's how we presented it and sold it to the employees. Goal number 2 was key person insurance. Again, concern over the potential disability of James or Jennifer was the driver of this one. Again, with the recent memory of having lost their baker due to an illness. So when we look at enhanced personal disability coverage for the owners, really what we're talking about is what happens to the company if one of the owners doesn't show up to work. And in this case, there would be no business after a fairly short period of time. So the goal was to create corporately owned disability insurance on both owners, which then paid the business to maintain overhead and hire personnel to carry out the owner's duties in their absence. The owners would still receive their income because their income is largely based on the profits of the company. So as long as the company remains viable and continues to operate, they're going to continue to receive their income. But the key here is to make sure that their duties are being covered by somebody, and that's going to cost. So disability insurance to hire someone to replace James was going to require a payout of around $4,800 per month to pay a salary and taxes and everything else to bring somebody in. For about 2 years, we figured. If he was down for more than 2 years, then they would probably look at selling the business. So $4,800 per month for 2 years, rated at 200% because of James's diabetes, meaning it would cost 200% more, or 100% more, double essentially what a healthy person would cost. Came out at about $209 a month. The same amount of coverage for Jennifer for the same amount of time because she was healthy came out at $119 per month. Now Jennifer's a little bit younger than James, and that's why it's not exactly half. One of the misconceptions about disability insurance, and when you really stop and think about it, it makes a whole lot of sense, is that the younger you are, the more expensive the coverage could potentially be, because the potential is for you to be disabled for longer, rather than life insurance when the likelihood of death increases as you age, and it's just a one-time payout anyway. Goal number 3 was that tax-efficient succession. So the sale of the business assets, goodwill, etc., we figured was around $500,000, and they did some calculations with the help of their accountant to settle at that number. The sale of the assets would be taxed at around 25%, which would leave $375,000. They also figured that their required income in retirement would be around $41,000 after tax and CPP. And this means that they need to accumulate an additional $725,000 invested at around 8% to generate their required income. And I'll get into the calculation how we get to that number and what that required income is going to be in a couple of slides. So what I proposed, first of all, was to purchase a joint life insurance policy, last to die, in the amount of $125,000. That would be the amount of money that would be required to offset the taxes that would come due to their estate if they were to have to sell the business in a hurry after they both passed away. Cost for something like that came out to only $600 per month for just 5 years. So it would be quick paid, fully paid up within 5 years. Then they could take an additional $1,500 per month invested at around 8% in 5 years, starting from zero, would be worth $105,000. And then at the end of 5 years, they would take that $600 a month that they were using to buy the life insurance, which is now paid up, and add it in. So they would then be putting in $2,100 a month for the next 10 years. This would then grow it to $510,000. So their total assets on the day that they retired, which would be generating their retirement income, would be $375,000 from the sale of the business, potentially $125,000 worth of tax offset from the life insurance policy, and $510,000 in investments, which brought us up to basically $1 million, just a little bit more than $1 million. And if that were invested at 7%, it would generate an average income of $41,000 for the rest of their lives, which was the number that they had said they needed to begin with. So when I presented this to them, if you remember at the beginning, they said that they figured they could spend around $3,000 per month to get this done. So the group benefits package was going to cost them $450 a month, which is 50%. The other 50% was going to be covered by the employees. Disability insurance was going to cost James around $209, Jennifer around $119. Life insurance was going to cost them $600 a month, and investments were going to be $15, for a total of $2,878.42 per month. That's what this plan cost. That's what they settled on, and now a few years later, they're moving forward, specifically right on track. In another year or so, that life insurance policy is going to be paid up, and they'll be cranking up that investment number, and everything is pointing to them being on track for a nice, comfortable retirement in another 10 or so years when they turn around and sell the business. Let me know if you have any questions about this. If you're a business owner in a similar situation, I'd be happy to create a plan similar to this for you through discussion. The next step would be to book your own strategy session. So give me a call or send me an email, and we'll take it from there. Have a great day.